Good evening. It is Thursday, November 3rd, and I'm going to be doing a shortened version of my Northeast Minneapolis Test Loop with FSD Beta 10.69.3. There's been a bunch of different changes that we've noticed in this build so far. There's been some positive changes, like in terms of like jitter. There's far less jitter than there was before in 69.2, and the various minor releases that came along with that. But there's been some regressions that we've seen as well, especially in regards to path planning. So we're going to see on this route if those issues are going to crop up or not. We are doing this at night, so it'll be interesting to kind of see how FSD Beta 69.3 performs and if there's really any big noticeable differences from previous builds. So I'm going to fast forward until we get to our start of our route, and we'll go from there. See you in a bit. All right, we are starting our route here. We're starting it off by taking a left turn on a Plymouth Avenue North, and then we're going to be crossing over the Plymouth Avenue Bridge into Northeast Minneapolis. So in the past, where we've struggled the most at this intersection is oncoming traffic. Sometimes there's quite a bit of cars, our window's very small, and the car doesn't react quick enough, so we end up kind of getting stranded waiting to turn. So here it looks like we're going to have a little bit of an opening, so let's see how it does here. A little bit of hesitation on the brakes there. I am applying throttle input as we do have somebody right behind us there. Very similar to previous builds. Maybe a little bit less hesitation, but otherwise pretty darn similar. So when there is open space in front of us and we're committing and we have somebody closely following us behind, the car needs to take that into account, in my opinion. We definitely that hesitation can cause accidents really easily if we just jam on the brakes like that. So again, it's why when you're testing software like this, you cover the throttle, you cover the brake to make sure that if you have to apply an input at the last second, you do so. So nothing that I'm not used to, but it's one of those things that is definitely a little frustrating. But again, it's beta software. That's kind of what I expect at this point. So, but otherwise, path selection back there. No noticeable differences that I can see. So, I know there's been some big changes under the hood. I've seen some behavioral changes in other routes that indicate that change or are related, I think, to that change. Some regressions in that regard, especially with curbs, but with that particular turn, no regressions that I could see. A little bit of braking there for those folks on the right there. I couldn't tell if they were going to be going across the lane of travel or if they were going to stay to the right and just cross the other street there. So I did apply some throttle input as we have somebody closely following behind us there, and we can't just jam on the brakes like that. So, but good job with those scooters on the right there. They were obviously, those people were kind of moving quite pretty fast, and car didn't hesitate at all around them, so that was good. And here the intersection has the stoplights out of service, so we have 4 stop signs. We are kind of approaching it. We slowed down a little bit and then we sped up a little bit just to slow back down again. So, and we're stopping pretty short of the stop sign here. I'm guessing because of this bus here. This bus driver definitely overcooked it there, so I moved out of the way. I'm not sure that bus driver should have been doing that sort of turn there, but that's why I don't drive buses. All right, a little bit of hesitation here. I'm just applying throttle input here. Kind of expect some confusion there as it's expecting a stoplight. And again here, we're kind of prematurely hitting the brakes. I'm not sure what for. We just kind of jamming the brakes. Maybe it's the pedestrians here. I'm not sure what's going on. All right, the pedestrians are clear on our left here, and that car is as well. So we're going to complete our turn here on University Avenue. And that one's been pretty smooth for the last 4 or 5 builds. No issues there. Pretty solid. So you just noticed there on the screen, the car has a preference. This has been something that's been there for a while. Unless it's 4 to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday, people can park on the right lane here. So my preference and the best practice on this stretch of road here on University Avenue is to stay in this left lane here. Because you get parked cars, and then if it gets busy, you can get hung out to dry out on the right there. And that's been a problem for us in previous builds, where I've had to kind of interact and cancel the lane changes. So I've had to do the same thing so far here. So I don't, again, foresee any changes there. Aside from reading the 4 to 6 p.m. no parking signs, I don't know how you would solve this problem otherwise. So again, I'm just going to keep canceling the turns until we get closer to our right turn in about a half a mile here. Great job there proceeding when that car was out of our way. We didn't hesitate at all. So that the car definitely is reacting faster, like I've said in previous videos so far, and on this one as well. The reduction in latency is really nice. I'm sure there's definitely more improvements to come with improvements to the vision system and whatnot, but very promising so far with that. So up here we have to make a right turn. This is where, if I'm driving, I'm usually hopping over to the right lane. So it's trying to get back over, as it should. Doing a good job so far. Alright, so after we get into this intersection here, we'll be hanging a right here on the Lowry Avenue Northeast, and then we'll be kind of going straight through some busier sections then for a little bit. Great job at that right turn. I think that's honestly the best handling of that turn and intersection that I've seen so far. So the car does seem to do a better job. Just based on that one example there, I can tell you the car is definitely more confident. Even after it canceled some lane changes, of still knowing it has to get over to the right, it got over to the right, it waited patiently, and when it was clear to do so, it went and got in the right lane after we made that turn. That's another important thing that wasn't there in the previous builds. We would hop right over to the left lane and then get kind of confused on which lane to be in. And in the previous build too, we would obviously, that same section right here, by the intersection of Lowry and Washington Street Northeast, the car would try to just like move right over to the right, and this time it wanted to. You saw it indicate that it was going to, and then it canceled it. So some of the lane selection, changes they've made is bearing some fruit here on this route, which is again really good stuff to see. So I've been hard on 69.3 so far in regards to some of the regressions that I've seen, but there are some noticeable improvements as well. So again, a lot of promise in this build. So we have a cone on our right that's kind of sticking out here. Let's see how we thread the needle here. I might take over. I'm going to let it go. We cleared it by a few inches there. So, no issues there. And then again, up here, it's mostly a straight section of road, but sometimes, like when we cross Central Avenue Northeast here, it's sometimes quite busy. This time of day, maybe not as much during the day, but it's sometimes pretty busy. So a lot of times people ahead of us, once we cross this intersection, will be turning left, and sometimes they do it very suddenly. So the latency of reacting to that can sometimes cause people behind us to get a little bit nervous because we're kind of late on the brakes, if you will. So I'm not sure if anybody's going to be turning ahead of us here, but that's something that's pretty common on this section of road. A little bit of hesitation there. We indicated a signal to the right, but both these lanes kind of merged together, so the car did figure it out, but the hard braking there back there when we did hesitate, I really wish it would be a little smoother of applying brake if it's unsure. There's no reason to apply that much brake input. We could have just slowed down a little bit and just rolled a little bit, and I still think that's something that's missing from FSD Beta in terms of if it's confused. It's okay to roll. We're going to go going straight anyways. So if we're unsure, slow down a little bit and then try to stretch out the length at which you're slowing down versus applying so much input at once. Alright, so we'll be making a left turn here on a Stinson Parkway. And then we're just about home here. We just got a little bit further to go. So I'm going to give it a little bit of throttle here, and it looks like I'm just going to complete this turn. So part of the problem with that intersection there is you got to commit pretty quickly, and unfortunately, you know, we hesitated a little bit, and then the line selection was also wrong. We were going way too deep into the intersection there. So that was definitely an issue. So anyways, just kind of reconvening my messaging around that section there. You know, line selection was off. Again, I would have preferred, since the person behind us was so eager to get on our butt there, I really wish FSD would signal a little earlier and then start slowing. And even if it has to slow to a crawl, it's better than trying to carry so much speed and then jam on the brake at the end. Because that seems, you know, it's hard for human drivers to kind of predict what to do in that situation around us. So, again, some refinement that needs to be done there. But the big thing I think that's related to recent changes was the path selection. I've never seen it take such a wide line through that there. So again, I think it's like a regression that related to their path, you know, planning changes. But good job with this intersection here. Good visibility of the pedestrians as well as the surrounding cars. Very confident, no throttle input required for me. That's as designed there, so that was really good to see. Not sure what we were doing there. We kind of tried following that car right into the intersection, like skipping that stop sign altogether there. That was kind of bizarre. So I'm going to report that. There it goes. I've seen it do that at the intersection going the other way before, but never from that direction. So that's definitely new behavior there. I've noticed some other folks mention that they've seen it miss a couple stop signs. It's not like it was, you know, occluded or anything, so it was kind of weird, but. And again, we accelerate kind of hard, and then we kind of jam right back on the brakes. And that's a big problem with this intersection there. That's been a problem throughout pretty much all of the builds so far. So I continue to report the behavior there. A lot of times that intersection's empty, and we still overly hesitate for whatever reason. So I'm not sure if it's just a visibility thing or just a cautious thing, but it's way too cautious there. And that's a common problem that I think is more pronounced in the 69 builds, and that's all of them, where we're just, you know, way too cautious, way too hesitant at four-way stops, most of the time that are empty. So good job with that right turn there. The light was changing, and it did exactly what I would have done. Keep proceeding and get through that intersection before the light fully changes there. So that was good behavior there. No hesitation on the brakes, just commit. That was good. All right, we're making our final, well, I should say our second to last left turn here on a 36th Avenue Northeast. And as you see here, the car swings way too far to the right. So we have somebody behind us, they're going to get confused. So I'm taking over here. But that move right there, using dead space to make a left turn where it's not needed, is just still a behavior that really frustrates me around here. And then kind of a couple things here. You saw the auto brights kick on. They weren't needed as well. And then the speed limit continues to be an issue. It continues to confuse the speed limit in my neighborhood and think it's 30 miles an hour when it's been 20 for a few years now. So I continue to report that one via a few different channels, but if anybody from Tesla is listening, please update the maps and get the speed limits around here fixed, because it does cause problems. So, and there's a driveway to our right. It always hesitates there, and that still seems to be there. A little bit of on the throttle, off the throttle with the brakes there and whatnot. Continue to report it, but still an issue, unfortunately. And that's hilarious. That's my wife right there, and it stopped for her. We have the right of way. They don't. So they're supposed to stop for us. So again, stopping in the middle of the intersection is something that also needs to be addressed. You know, again, if you're committing to the turn, you got to kind of go through with it. it's up to the other person to stop. But I know they don't want FSD causing accidents, but if that was me, I would have proceeded through, and if that person kind of kept proceeding, I would have taken evasive action if needed. So anyways, through and through, I think, overall there's some obviously good improvements with 69.3 so far. The reduction in latency, the lane selection most of the times has been better along previously problematic sections, but commitment at four-way stops is still an issue. We're still hesitating way too much. We're still going off throttle, on throttle, and going back and forth like we've done in the previous 69 build. So, there's still a lot of room for improvement. But the reduction in latency is one that I'm hopeful will lead to better, more confident behavior as they kind of, perfect, the changes they've made in 69.3. So anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.